The moment I hear my best friend Mike's voice over the phone, my stomach knots. His tone is urgent, almost shaky, as he says, "Chris, man, you need to sit down. I saw something you need to know." Mike doesn't call me like this, not unless it's serious. I grab a beer from the fridge and sit at the kitchen table, heart pounding. "Just spit it out," I say, trying to sound calm even though I feel anything but. He takes a deep breath. "It's Laura. I saw her at that new downtown restaurant last night. She wasn't alone, Chris. She was with some guy. They were—" He hesitates, like he's debating whether to say it. "She was all over him, man. Holding hands, kissing. I thought you should know." For a second, I don't respond. My world feels like it's spinning off its axis. Laura? My wife of 6 years? The woman I built my life with? No way. There must be a mistake. "Are you sure it was her?" I ask, my voice low but trembling. "And not some look-alike?" "Chris," Mike says firmly, "it was her. I know Laura when I see her." Anger wells up, hot and bitter. But with it comes disbelief. Laura has been distant lately, sure. But cheating? That's not her. Is it? Where was this again? I ask, trying to keep my voice steady. "The restaurant?" "Yeah," Mike replies. "Downtown. Place called Lou Jardin." They weren't exactly hiding it either. Like they wanted to be seen. I clench my fists. Laura has been working late a lot recently, but she always came home with a smile, acting like everything was fine. My jaw tightens. If Mike's telling the truth, she's been lying to my face for weeks, maybe months. I thank him and hang up, but I don't sit still for long. I grab my car keys and head for the door, determination surging through me. If Laura is cheating, I'm going to find out. And if she thinks she can play me for a fool, she's in for a rude awakening. As I drive, my thoughts race. Memories flash through my mind. Our wedding day, her laugh, the way she used to look at me like I was her whole world. But now I'm questioning everything. The restaurant is dimly lit, all warm golden hues and soft music. Couples sit at small, candlelit tables, leaning in close. I scan the room, my heart hammering in my chest, but there's no sign of Laura. Maybe Mike got it wrong. Maybe. And then I see her. She's sitting at a table near the back, dressed to kill in a tight black dress I haven't seen before. Across from her is a man I don't recognize, his hand resting casually on hers as they laugh together. My blood runs cold. I don't know how long I stand there, frozen, watching as my wife flirts with another man. A mix of anger and pain surges through me. Part of me wants to storm over there, flip the table, and demand answers. Another part of me wants to walk away, pretending I never saw it. But I can't ignore this. Not after everything we've been through. I take a deep breath, steel myself, and start walking toward their table. Each step toward Laura's table feels like it takes an eternity. My heart pounds so loud I can barely hear the soft chatter of the other diners. She doesn't see me coming, too caught up in her laughter, her hand still lingering in his. My jaw tightens as I approach. When I'm just a few feet away, the man looks up and notices me. His smile falters, confusion spreading across his face. Laura follows his gaze, her laughter dying mid-breath. Her eyes meet mine, wide and shocked. She pulls her hand back from his like she just touched a hot stove. "Chris, what are you doing here?" she stammers, her voice shaky. "Funny," I say, my tone razor sharp. "I was just about to ask you the same thing." The man shifts uncomfortably in his seat, his eyes darting between Laura and me. He's clearly caught off guard, but I'm not interested in him, yet. My focus is on Laura, the woman I've shared my life with, the woman I trusted. "Who is this?" I ask, gesturing toward the guy. My voice is calm, but inside I'm boiling. I want to see how she'll spin this, how she'll wriggle out of the trap she's set for herself. "Chris, this isn't what it looks like," she says quickly, her voice trembling. Her eyes dart around the room as if looking for an escape route. "I can explain." I let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, please, Laura, enlighten me. Explain what part of this isn't what it looks like. The hand-holding? The cozy dinner for two? Or the fact that my hard-working wife seems to have plenty of time for this?" The man clears his throat and finally speaks. Look, man, I think there's been a misunderstanding. No. I snap, cutting him off. My gaze locks onto him like a predator cornering its prey. The only misunderstanding here is that you thought I wouldn't find out. He shrinks back slightly but tries to play it cool. I didn't know she was married, okay? I swear. Really? I say, my voice dripping with sarcasm. So the ring on her finger didn't tip you off? Laura shifts in her seat, her face pale. Chris, please, can we talk about this in private? Private? I bark, my voice rising. Heads are turning now, other diners starting to take notice. You want privacy now? After you've been flaunting this in public? No, Laura. We're doing this here. You had no problem putting on a show for him. Let's give everyone the grand finale. Her face flushes red, and she looks like she's on the verge of tears. But I'm not about to let her crocodile tears derail me. She made her choices, and now she has to face the consequences. The man stands up, holding his hands up defensively. Hey, look, I didn't sign up for this, he says, backing away. You two can sort this out. I'm out of here. I step into his path, blocking him from leaving. Oh no, I say, my voice low and menacing. You're not going anywhere. You had the guts to be here with her, so you're going to stay and hear this. The room is silent now, every pair of eyes in the restaurant glued to our table. Laura buries her face in her hands, shaking her head. Chris, stop, please. You're making a scene. A scene? I repeat, incredulous. You made this scene, Laura. You and your buddy here. My voice echoes through the restaurant, the anger in me too overwhelming to contain. I glance at the man, my fists clenching at my sides. You're lucky I'm not the type to start swinging, I say through gritted teeth. But don't think for a second that you're walking out of here unscathed. I turn back to Laura, my voice cold and steady now. You wanted to explain? Go ahead. Explain to me and everyone else here why you thought this was okay. I'll wait. Laura looks around the restaurant, her face flushed, tears glistening in her eyes. The weight of the room's silence bears down on her. Every eye is on her now, but she hesitates, her mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. I wasn't thinking, she finally says, her voice barely above a whisper. Chris, I didn't mean for it to be like this. I laugh, a bitter, hollow sound that doesn't even feel like it's coming from me. You didn't mean for it to be like this? So what exactly did you mean, Laura? Enlighten me. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been meaning this for a while. Her head snaps up, her eyes pleading with me. It's not what you think. This is just dinner. It didn't mean anything. The man shifts uncomfortably beside me, and I don't miss the way his eyes flicker toward the door, clearly weighing his chances of slipping out unnoticed. I step closer to him, cutting off any hope of escape. You, I say, pointing a finger at him. What's your name? He looks startled, like a deer caught in headlights. It's Ryan. Ryan, I repeat, nodding slowly. How long have you been seeing my wife, Ryan? His eyes widen and he stammers, we didn't. Spit it out. I bark, the force of my voice making him flinch. Laura jumps in, desperate now. Chris, stop. This isn't his fault. I'm the one who… She cuts herself off, realizing too late what she's just admitted. I seize on her slip-up. You're the one who what, Laura? I demand. Go on. Say it. She starts to cry, her shoulders shaking. I made a mistake. Okay? It was just one night. I wasn't thinking straight. I didn't mean to hurt you. One night. I scoff, my voice dripping with disbelief. You expect me to believe this was just one night when you're out here having candlelit dinners like it's date night? Do I look like an idiot to you? The room feels like it's closing in around us, the buzz of whispers from other tables growing louder. I don't care. Let them watch. Let them hear. Laura deserves every ounce of humiliation she's feeling right now. Ryan clears his throat, his hands raised in a placating gesture. Look, man, I didn't know she was married. She never said anything about you. If I'd known, spare me, I snap, cutting him off. You didn't notice the wedding ring? Or were you too busy undressing her with your eyes to care? Ryan's face flushes red, and he takes a step back, but I don't let up. You're just as much to blame as she is. Don't act like you're some innocent victim here. Laura finally stands, her hands clasped together as she looks at me, tears streaming down her face. Chris, please. I love you. It was a mistake. I swear. It didn't mean anything. I shake my head, the words feeling like a dagger twisting in my chest. Love? You don't do this to someone you love, Laura. You don't lie. You don't sneak around. And you sure as hell don't sit across from another man, laughing like you've got no care in the world, while I'm at home wondering why my wife is always working late. Her sobs grow louder, but I'm past the point of caring. You made your choices, Laura, and now you get to live with them. I glance at Ryan one last time, my glare making him flinch. And you? If I ever see your face again, you'll regret it. I step back, my voice rising so everyone can hear me. Enjoy your meal, folks. This is the last dinner date they'll ever have. With that, I turn on my heel and storm out of the restaurant, the door slamming shut behind me. The cool night air hits me like a slap to the face, but it does nothing to cool the fire burning in my chest. As I walk away, one thought runs through my mind. This isn't over. Not by a long shot. I sit in my car outside the restaurant, gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turn white. My chest heaves as I try to calm the storm raging inside me. The image of Laura laughing with that guy, Ryan, burns in my mind. Her words, her tears, none of it feels real anymore. The woman I thought I knew is a stranger now. But this isn't where the story ends. No, this is just the beginning. I take a deep breath and force myself to think. Anger can't guide me, not completely. If I act without a plan, I'll only make things worse. She humiliated me, betrayed me, and I'm not going to let her walk away without consequences. I grab my phone and scroll through my contacts. My finger hovers over Mike's name. He's the one who tipped me off, and he might have more information. If Laura's been sneaking around, there's a good chance someone else knows about it. The phone rings twice before Mike picks up. Chris, he says, his voice cautious. You okay? Not really, I admit, but I need your help. You said you saw Laura last night with that guy. Did you notice anything else? Anything weird? Mike hesitates. Look, man, I didn't want to say this before, but, yeah, they weren't exactly discreet. It looked like they'd done this before. Figures, I mutter, running a hand through my hair. Thanks, Mike. I owe you one. You sure you're okay? I can come over. I'll be fine. I cut him off, not wanting to hear the pity in his voice. I just need to figure some things out. I hang up and sit in silence for a moment, my mind racing. If this wasn't a one-time thing, it means Laura's been lying to me for a long time. And if that's the case, there's bound to be evidence. Texts, photos, something. I just need to find it. When I get home, the house is quiet. Laura isn't back yet, and part of me wonders if she'll even come home tonight. The thought sends a pang through my chest, but I shove it aside. This isn't the time for emotions. It's time for answers. I grab her laptop from the living room and open it. Her password is still the same. It always is. She's careful with her phone, but she's never thought to hide anything on her computer. A rookie mistake. It doesn't take long to find what I'm looking for. Emails, photos, calendar appointments that don't match the work trips she's claimed to take. My stomach churns as I click through the evidence, each new discovery driving the knife deeper. And then I find the messages. Dozens of them, from Ryan and others. The words make my blood boil. Can't wait to see you again. Last night was incredible. When's the next business trip? It's all there, laid out in black and white. My hands shake as I close the laptop. This isn't just betrayal. This is premeditated. She's been living a double life right under my nose, and she didn't even bother to cover her tracks. But instead of breaking down, I feel a strange sense of calm wash over me. The anger is still there, but now it's focused, sharpened into something dangerous. She's played me for a fool, but that ends now. I'm not just going to confront her. I'm going to expose her for the liar she is. I glance at the clock. It's late, but I know exactly what I need to do. I grab my phone again and start making calls. First to Mike, then to a few others. People who've known us for years. Friends, family. By the time I'm done, I've set the wheels in motion for a reckoning Laura will never forget. She wants to live a double life? Fine. But when I'm through, everyone will know the truth. You're absolutely right. I need to ask, do you want me to continue? After each part, let me rewrite the flow properly with that in mind. The next morning, the house is eerily quiet. Laura didn't come home last night, and her absence only solidifies what I already know. She's been lying to me for a long time. But instead of dwelling on the pain, I focus on the plan. My calls from the night before bear fruit almost immediately. Mike shows up first, his face tight with concern. "You sure about this, man?" he asks as he steps inside. "Absolutely," I reply, my voice firm. "She's been playing me for a fool, and I'm done letting it slide." He nods, but I can tell he's worried. "I just don't want you to regret anything. This kind of confrontation, it's gonna get messy." "Messy is what she deserves," I say, the edge in my voice unmistakable. Over the next couple of hours, others arrive. Friends who've been in our circle for years, people who've seen Laura and me as the picture-perfect couple. One by one, I explain what's been happening. I don't sugarcoat anything. I show them the texts, the emails, the photos. Their reactions range from shock to anger, and by the end of it, they're just as fired up as I am. "This is insane," says Sarah, a close friend of Laura's who looks like she's just been slapped. "I had no idea she was capable of something like this." "None of us did," Mike says grimly. "But now we do." As the room fills with murmurs of disbelief, I outline the plan. Tonight, Laura thinks she's coming to a casual get-together with friends, something I set up through one of our mutual acquaintances. She has no idea what's waiting for her. She's going to walk in here expecting smiles and drinks, I say, pacing the room. Instead, she's going to get the truth, and everyone will see her for who she really is. There's a moment of silence as the weight of my words sinks in. Then, one by one, they agree. They'll be there. They'll stand by me. By the time they leave, the house feels charged with a sense of purpose. I glance at my watch. A few hours to go. Enough time to prepare for the showdown. I spend the rest of the day making sure everything is perfect. The living room is spotless, the furniture arranged to create an almost courtroom-like atmosphere. On one side, there's a seat for Laura, front and center. On the other, I've set up a laptop connected to the TV, ready to display every piece of evidence I've uncovered. If she thinks she can talk her way out of this, she's dead wrong. As the evening approaches, the first guests arrive. Mike, Sarah, and a few others. They're quiet, the tension palpable. Some of them bring drinks, but no one touches them. This isn't a party. It's an intervention. Finally, Laura texts me. "On my way. Can't wait to see everyone." I stare at the screen, my jaw clenching. The audacity of it all. I don't respond. She'll find out soon enough. The minutes tick by like hours, but then I hear it. The sound of her car pulling into the driveway. My heart races, but I force myself to stay calm. This is it. The front door opens, and there she is. Laura steps inside, her face lighting up when she sees everyone. "Wow," she says, her smile wide and genuine, too genuine. I wasn't expecting such a big turnout. No one responds. The silence is deafening, and her smile falters as she glances around the room. "What's going on?" she asks, her voice tinged with unease. I step forward, crossing my arms. "Take a seat, Laura," I say, my tone leaving no room for argument. Her eyes narrow, suspicion dawning. "Chris, what is this?" "Sit down." She hesitates, but the weight of the stares from everyone in the room pushes her toward the chair. She sits, her posture stiff, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "Chris," she starts, her voice wavering. "What's going on?" I pick up the remote and turn on the TV. The first image appears, a photo of her and Ryan at the restaurant. Her face goes pale. "What's going on, Laura?" I repeat, my voice cold. "That's what I'd like to know." Laura's face drains of color as the image on the TV screen stares back at her. A candid shot of her and Ryan at the restaurant, holding hands, leaning in close. The room is so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Laura stares at the photo, her lips trembling. "Chris," she stammers, her voice barely above a whisper. I can explain. Oh, don't worry, Laura. I cut her off. My tone is cold as the air in the room. You'll get your chance. But first, let's make sure everyone here knows the full story. I click the remote, and another image appears. This one's worse. An email exchange between her and Ryan, riddled with flirtation and plans for their next business meeting. Gasps ripple through the room as the words play across the screen. Her head snaps toward me, her face pale and stricken. "Where did you get that?" she demands, her voice rising with panic. I shrug, keeping my composure. Does it matter? It's all there, Laura. Everything you thought you were keeping hidden. But it wasn't just Ryan, was it? Another click, and a second email thread appears. This one's with a different man. A pattern starts to emerge, and the audience of friends and family begins to shift uncomfortably. Some whisper to one another, others just glare at her in disbelief. "Stop!" Laura screams, tears now streaming down her face. "Chris, please. You don't understand." I slam the remote onto the table. "Oh, I understand perfectly, Laura. You've been sneaking around behind my back, lying to my face, and making me look like a fool. But not anymore. Now everyone knows the truth." Her eyes dart around the room, searching for someone, anyone, to defend her. But no one speaks. Even Sarah, her closest friend, looks down, unable to meet Laura's gaze. "You're blowing this way out of proportion," Laura cries, her voice trembling. "It wasn't serious. It didn't mean anything." I scoff, shaking my head. "Didn't mean anything? You expect me to believe that? You don't have affairs with multiple men if it doesn't mean anything, Laura. You don't destroy a marriage over nothing." She buries her face in her hands, sobbing. But I don't feel sorry for her. Not this time. She made her choices, and now she has to face the consequences. I take a step back, addressing the room. This is who she really is. This is the woman I married. And now, you all know the truth. Laura's sobs grow louder, but no one rushes to comfort her. The room is frozen, every pair of eyes locked on her trembling form. I let the silence hang for a moment, the weight of her betrayal pressing down on everyone. Finally, she looks up, her tear-streaked face a mask of desperation. "Chris," she pleads, her voice cracking. "Please, we can fix this. I made a mistake, but I still love you." I laugh bitterly, the sound sharp and hollow. "Love me? That's rich, Laura. You don't do this to someone you love. You don't lie, cheat, and humiliate them. You didn't just betray me. You betrayed everything we built together." She shakes her head, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "It wasn't like that. I didn't mean to hurt you. I felt lonely. You've been so busy with work, and I thought, don't you dare try to blame this on me." I snap, my voice cutting through her excuses. "I worked to provide for us, to give you the life you wanted. And this is how you repay me?" The room stirs slightly, some of the onlookers shifting uncomfortably. Sarah finally speaks up, her voice hesitant. "Laura, why didn't you just talk to him? If you were feeling lonely, why not say something instead of this?" Laura's gaze darts to Sarah, her lips trembling. I didn't know how. It just happened." "It didn't just happen," I interject, my voice rising. "You made choices, Laura. Over and over again. You chose to lie, to sneak around, to cheat. Don't stand there and act like you're some victim." She flinches at my words, her tears falling faster. For a brief moment, I feel a pang of guilt, but I push it aside. She needs to face this. She needs to see the damage she's done. I turn to the others, addressing them directly. "You all see now what I've been dealing with. The lies, the betrayal. This isn't just about me. It's about the people we called our friends. The people she's been lying to as well." Mike nods, his expression grim. "We had no idea, Chris. If we'd known, we would have told you sooner." Laura lets out a choked sob, burying her face in her hands again. The room is heavy with tension, the air thick with unspoken words. For the first time, she looks truly broken, but I'm not ready to let her off the hook. "Laura," I say, my voice steady but firm, "you've destroyed everything we had, and now you're going to have to live with the consequences." Her head snaps up, her eyes wide with fear. What do you mean? I don't answer immediately, letting the weight of my words sink in. Then, slowly, I turn to the table where the divorce papers are waiting, neatly arranged in a folder. You wanted freedom, didn't you? To explore? Well, you're about to get it. Her face pales as she realizes what I mean. Chris, no. Please. Don't do this. We can work through this. I'll change. I'll do whatever it takes. But I shake my head, my resolve unshaken. You made your choices, Laura. Now, I'm making mine. The air in the room feels charged, heavy with anticipation. Laura's tear-streaked face shifts from desperation to sheer panic as she stares at the folder on the table. She knows what's inside, and it terrifies her. Chris, she says, her voice trembling. You don't have to do this. Please. I'll make things right, I swear. I cross my arms, meeting her gaze with steely resolve. How, Laura? How do you make up for this? For months of lies and betrayal? For throwing away everything we had? Tell me, because I'm dying to know. She opens her mouth to respond but falters, her words catching in her throat. The truth is, she doesn't have an answer. There's no fixing this, and deep down, she knows it. I pick up the folder and hold it up for everyone to see. These, I say, my voice cutting through the silence, are divorce papers. They're already filled out. All they need is your signature. Laura's eyes widen in shock, her hands clutching the sides of her chair. No, she whispers, shaking her head. No, Chris, please. Don't do this. I slam the folder down on the table in front of her, making her jump. You did this, Laura, I say coldly. Not me. This is what you wanted, isn't it? Freedom to live your double life without the burden of a husband at home. Her sobs grow louder, but I'm unmoved. For months, I've been the one suffering in silence, questioning my worth, wondering what I did wrong. Now, it's her turn to face the consequences of her actions. The room remains silent, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Mike steps forward, his expression a mix of anger and disappointment. Laura, I've known you for years. I thought you were better than this. How could you do this to him? I didn't mean for it to go this far, she chokes out, her words barely coherent through her tears. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. That's where you're wrong, I say, leaning in closer. You hurt me. You hurt everyone in this room who believed in you. And now, you're going to face the consequences. I gesture toward the folder. Sign the papers, Laura. End this charade. Her hands tremble as she reaches for the folder, but she hesitates, her eyes pleading with mine. Chris, please. Don't throw everything away. We can fix this. Fix it? I laugh bitterly. You can't fix something you've already destroyed. This marriage is over, Laura. It ended the moment you decided to betray me. Her gaze darts around the room, searching for support, but no one comes to her defense. Even Sarah, who has been her closest ally, looks away, unable to meet her eyes. Finally, she lowers her head, defeated. Her hands move to open the folder, and I can see the weight of her decision bearing down on her. She knows she has no other choice. As she picks up the pen, the room holds its collective breath. The sound of the pen scratching against the paper is almost deafening, each stroke a final nail in the coffin of our marriage. When she's done, she pushes the folder away, her shoulders slumping in defeat. Are you happy now? She mutters, her voice barely audible. I take the folder and look her straight in the eye. No, Laura, I'm not happy, but I am free. The moment the pen leaves the paper, I feel an unexpected calm wash over me. It's not happiness, far from it, but a strange kind of peace, the kind that comes from knowing a painful chapter is finally closing. I take the folder, close it, and tuck it under my arm. It feels heavier than it should, as though it carries the weight of every betrayal, every lie, and every broken promise. Laura stays seated, her head in her hands, her body trembling with sobs. She doesn't look at me, doesn't look at anyone. The vibrant, confident woman I once loved is gone, replaced by a shell of regret and humiliation. But it's too late for me to feel pity. Too much damage has been done. I turn to the room, addressing the group of friends and family who came to witness this reckoning. Thank you all for being here, I say, my voice steady but filled with emotion. This isn't how I wanted things to go, but it had to be done. Now you know the truth. Mike nods, stepping forward to clasp a hand on my shoulder. We've got your back, man. Always. One by one, the others follow suit, offering their support. Some glance at Laura with a mix of pity and anger, while others avoid looking at her entirely. The room begins to clear out, the tension easing as people leave. By the time the last guest steps outside, the house feels eerily empty. Laura hasn't moved. She sits there, her face hidden, her shoulders still shaking. For a moment, I hesitate. This was a woman I once loved, someone I shared my life with. Despite everything, part of me aches to see her like this. But then I remember the emails, the lies, the nights spent wondering where she was. I remember the betrayal, sharp and raw, and any lingering sympathy evaporates. Laura, I say, my voice firm but devoid of anger. You can stay here tonight, but I want you out by tomorrow. I'll have my lawyer contact you about the rest. She finally looks up, her eyes red and swollen. Chris, please, she whispers. Don't do this. I can't do this alone. You should have thought of that before you threw us away. I reply, my tone icy. This is what you wanted, Laura. Now you get to live with it. Her lips part as if to protest, but no words come out. She knows there's nothing left to say. Without another word, I turn and walk upstairs. My legs feel heavy, my heart even heavier, but I keep going. When I reach our bedroom, my bedroom now, I close the door behind me and lean against it, exhaling a shaky breath. I glance around the room, my eyes landing on the wedding photo on the dresser. The two of us smiling, full of hope and love, completely unaware of the storm that lay ahead. It feels like a lifetime ago. I walk over, pick up the frame, and stare at it for a moment. Then, with a sigh, I place it face down on the dresser. It's time to start letting go. Morning sunlight filters through the blinds, casting a warm glow across the room, but it does little to thaw the cold ache in my chest. I didn't sleep much last night. My mind was too crowded with thoughts of what's next, of how to piece together a life that now feels so fractured. But as I lie there, staring at the ceiling, a realization settles over me. For the first time in months, I'm no longer stuck. The weight of her lies is gone, and with it, the chains holding me back. The sound of movement downstairs pulls me out of my thoughts. I sit up, letting the quiet house remind me that this is the beginning of something new. By the time I make my way to the foyer, Laura is standing there, her bags neatly packed by her side. She looks up as I step closer, her face pale, her eyes red from a night of crying. I'm leaving, she says, her voice soft, almost timid. I cross my arms, my voice steady. Good. I told you last night this is what I needed. Her gaze flickers between me and the floor. Chris, I know I don't deserve it, but I need you to know I'm sorry. For everything. Her words hang in the air, heavy and bittersweet. For a moment, I see the woman I once loved, the woman who promised me forever. But those promises were broken, and no amount of regret can change that. I hope you mean that, I reply, my tone calm but firm. Because sorry is all you'll have left. She winces, as if my words cut deeper than she expected. She looks like she wants to say more, to plead, but she doesn't. Instead, she reaches for her bags, lifting them with trembling hands. She pauses at the door, glancing back one last time, her eyes searching mine for something. Pity, forgiveness, maybe even hope. But I give her nothing, just a resolute silence. The door closes softly behind her, the sound somehow louder than all the arguments and tears from the night before. I stand there for a moment, staring at the empty space where she stood, a strange mix of emotions coursing through me. Relief, sadness, and a faint spark of something else. Freedom. I turn away from the door and walk back into the living room. The silence of the house is deafening, but it's mine now. This is where I rebuild, where I start over. Time to move on, I mutter to myself, letting the words carry me forward. The house feels different now. Quieter, lighter, but not in a comforting way, at least, not yet. It's strange, adjusting to this new normal. I walk through the living room, noting how empty it feels without her presence, her belongings. The space carries echoes of what once was, but I'm determined to make it my own. Work becomes my refuge. Long hours at the office keep my mind occupied, filling the void left by the life I thought I had. My colleagues notice the change in me. They ask fewer questions, sensing the shift in my demeanor, though Mike remains a constant. He checks in daily, his tone steady and supportive. "You holding up, man?" he asks during one of his visits. I nod, giving him a small, genuine smile. I'm getting there. Slowly but surely. It's true. The weight is lifting, little by little. One evening, as I sift through a box of Laura's belongings she left behind, I come across a photo album. Its leather cover is worn, the pages inside filled with snapshots of a life I no longer recognize. Our wedding day, vacations to places I once thought were magical, candid moments of laughter and joy. My fingers hover over the photos before I close the album. The memories feel distant, like they belong to someone else. I place it back in the box and set it by the door. Tomorrow, I'll drop it off at her new place. I've carried enough of the past. It's time to let it go. To reclaim my space, I begin to make changes. The living room gets rearranged, the bedroom repainted. Even the mattress, one we chose together, is replaced with something entirely mine. Each adjustment feels like a step forward, a quiet act of defiance against the pain she left behind. By the time the weekend arrives, the house is starting to feel like a home again. Not the home it once was, but something new, something mine. Saturday morning comes with the smell of fresh coffee and the sound of silence. No hurried footsteps, no soft hum of Laura's voice. It's just me, alone in the house that feels a little less like hers and a little more like mine each day. I sip my coffee at the kitchen table, staring out the window as the sun rises higher in the sky. The to-do list I've made for myself grows shorter. With the furniture rearranged and the bedroom repainted, I move on to smaller things, replacing the throw pillows Laura picked out, swapping the curtains for something lighter. Each task feels like peeling away a layer of what once was, making space for something better. Mike swings by in the afternoon, a six-pack of beer in hand. "Figured you could use some company," he says with a grin, setting the bottles on the counter. I nod, grateful for his presence. "Thanks. It's been a weird few days." We settle in the living room, the sound of a baseball game playing softly in the background. For a while, we talk about everything but Laura. Work, sports, old stories that make us laugh. It feels good to laugh again, to remember there's more to life than the hurt she left behind. Eventually, Mike leans back, his expression thoughtful. "You know," he says, "this could be a fresh start for you. A chance to figure out what you really want." His words linger in the air, and I nod slowly. "I've been thinking about that. About what's next. You should. Take some time for yourself. Focus on what makes you happy." Happiness. It feels like such a distant concept, but as I look around the room, at the changes I've made, at the absence of the weight I used to carry, I realize it's not impossible. Maybe, just maybe, I can find it again. Sunday morning dawns quietly, and for the first time in what feels like forever, I don't dread the day ahead. There's a sense of calm in the house, a kind of peace I didn't realize I needed. The changes I've made are small, but they feel significant. Each one is a declaration. This is my space now. After breakfast, I decide to go for a run. It's been months since I've laced up my sneakers, but the crisp air and open road call to me. As my feet pound the pavement, I feel the tension in my body start to loosen. The rhythm of running is steady, familiar, like an old friend I forgot I missed. The route takes me through the park where Laura and I used to spend lazy Sunday afternoons. At first, the sight of the benches and trails brings a pang of sadness, but as I keep running, the memories fade into the background. This is my park now, my run, my time to reclaim what was taken. When I get back home, the house feels brighter, more alive. I shower, cook myself a real meal for the first time in days, and sit down with a notebook. Mike's words from the day before echo in my mind. Focus on what makes you happy. I stare at the blank page for a moment before the pen starts moving. The list is simple at first. Hobbies I used to love but haven't touched in years, places I've always wanted to visit, goals I set aside because life got too busy. But as the list grows, so does my sense of purpose. By the time I'm done, the page is filled with possibilities. It's not a plan yet, not really, but it's a start. A map of what my life could look like now that it's mine to shape. The days start to feel lighter, more purposeful. My mornings begin with runs, each one a little longer than the last. The rhythm of my feet hitting the pavement becomes a kind of therapy, a way to clear my head and focus on what's ahead instead of what's behind. Every mile I cover feels like a small victory. Work takes on a different tone as well. I dive into projects with new energy, tackling challenges with a focus I haven't felt in years. My colleagues notice the change, though they don't ask about it. Maybe they sense it's better to let me rebuild quietly, piece by piece. One evening, after a particularly long day, I find myself staring at the list I wrote. It's still sitting on the kitchen table, a reminder of the goals and dreams I'd put on hold for too long. The first item on the list catches my eye. Fix up the motorcycle in the garage. I head out to the garage, flipping on the light. The bike sits there, covered in dust, a forgotten relic of a younger, more carefree version of myself. Running my hand over the handlebars, I feel a spark of excitement. It's been years since I last worked on it, but the thought of getting it back on the road fills me with a sense of purpose. Grabbing my tools, I dive in. Hours pass as I lose myself in the mechanics of it, the smell of oil and metal bringing back memories of late nights tinkering and dreaming of open roads. By the time I step back to admire my work, my hands are filthy, but my heart feels lighter. The next weekend, I take the bike out for a spin. The roar of the engine, the wind on my face, it's exhilarating. A reminder that freedom isn't just an idea. It's something you claim for yourself. The open road stretches out before me, sunlight glinting off the freshly polished metal of the motorcycle. The hum of the engine beneath me feels like a heartbeat, steady and alive. With every mile I cover, the weight on my shoulders seems to lift, replaced by a sense of liberation I can't quite put into words. The scenery whips by in a blur of green and gold, the wind rushing past my ears. For the first time in months, maybe years, I'm not thinking about what's gone wrong or what could have been. Instead, I'm focused on the here and now, on the road ahead and the endless possibilities it holds. When I finally pull over at a scenic overlook, the view takes my breath away. Rolling hills stretch out in every direction, the horizon bathed in the warm glow of late afternoon. I take off my helmet and sit on the edge of the overlook, letting the moment sink in. I think about everything that's happened, about the betrayal and heartbreak that brought me here. It's still there, a dull ache in the back of my mind, but it doesn't feel as sharp anymore. It's part of me, sure, but it doesn't define me. Not anymore. I pull out my phone and snap a picture of the view, saving it as a reminder of this moment, of the day I took my first real step toward moving on. As the sun dips lower in the sky, painting everything in shades of orange and pink, I feel something I haven't felt in a long time. Hope. Not just for the future, but for myself. For the strength I've found in the wake of everything I've lost. Sliding my helmet back on, I rev the engine and head down the winding road, the horizon calling to me. This is my life now, mine to rebuild, mine to live. And for the first time in a long time, I can't wait to see where the journey takes me. Have you ever faced betrayal or a moment where you had to rebuild your life from scratch? What would you have done in Chris' shoes? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more like it, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to stay updated. Your support keeps these stories coming. And remember, every ending is a chance for a new beginning. Let's keep the conversation going.